So I've said before, I'm part of JCI. I love being a part of it because you get to meet so many different people from around the world. But there's one thing that through JCI I always learn, and that is that it is not a stereotype. The French absolutely love their wine. Like, through all the people I have ever met in JCI, they love their wine. Like JCI France and the guys over there, anyone who I've ever met, my God, do they love their wine? And some of them so incredibly knowledgeable about wine. Even some of them actually involved in the wine trade themselves. And there's one thing certainly very true. You never mess with a Frenchman in his wine and certainly his champagne. Oh boy. Um this if you haven't heard, of course, Europe responded to Trump's steel and aluminium tariff. To which Trump has now gone, if you're going to do that, then I am going to respond by putting a ludicrous tariff, and this is ludicrous, of 200%. Now, 10, 20, 30, even a 50% tariff, maybe companies can operate. They can still do stuff. They can still compensate for that. That the cost, of course, eventually might be passed on, to the consumer at the end of it. But they're still willing to do this at 200%. At 200%, why are you even able at that point to even import champagne from France, from America? So that's what we're looking at today. We're looking at how the French champagne industry has reacted to this now threat of a 200% tariff. And like I say, he keeps on saying it, April 2nd, that's when I think the big trade war is going to kick off. Because certainly, as we all know, those Canadian and Mexican tariffs paused, of course, as well until April 2nd. So we don't know. As I've said before, and I will keep on saying it, if you want to get anything from America, get it while you can, get it now, because after April 2nd, oh boy, it might be a lot more expensive. So, as always, before we do get on into this, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. Down below, there are links to my Patreon page, the Buy Me Coffee link where you can well buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, as always, there's the Pony Club down below as well. And thank you very much to all the people who do help and support the channel. Do click the like and share button as well. But oh boy, not a lot of very happy French people when they heard this. So this comes to us directly from France 24. The French champagne industry balks at Trump's threat of mega 200% tariff. So, President Donald Trump's threat of a 200% tariff on wine and champagne and other alcoholic drinks from EU countries is now proving hard to swallow in France's Champagne region. The move, announced, of course, in retaliation for the EU's planned levies on American-made whiskey, would now triple the price of an even entry-level bottle of champagne for the US consumers to around $150. Enough to make even well-off customers think twice. So at that point, why even sell wine or any of this stuff in America? Because my word, $150 for an entry-level bottle of champagne. And bear in mind, champagne, pretty expensive to begin with. If you're just going, what I think, I was at a hotel recently, I think you could buy like a bottle. I think the going price is like 80 quid for in the UK at least. It's probably, again, of course, depending on the champagne, the hotel, etc. Prices may vary. But the last one I was in, it ran about 80 quid. That is just going to be wild. That is just going to be wild. Like this just makes it not worth it. Like anyway, I don't even want to imagine that it could come to that, said David Chilton, the now co-president of the region's Champagne Committee on the industrial body. He told the APF that while Trump might be unconcerned about the impact on the French sector, there was hope that he might listen to the American distributors. A 75% now whose margins are generated through European wines and spirits. So we've always said it doesn't matter that Trump throws out all these tariffs, because at the end of the day, American consumers, American distributors, American businesses are going to be hurt as well. This is what, especially a lot of the Canadians, when you listen to them talk about all these Canadian tariffs, they all say the same thing. You're going to get hurt just as much as we are. So we are ready for this. Are you ready for it too? I don't think consumers in the US are. I don't think they really understand this. I don't think all those MAGA lunatics really understand how expensive things are going to get for them. So the United States is, of course, the biggest export market for champagne. And it is made exclusively, of course, in its home region in eastern France, with close to 30 million bottles valued at 810 million euros shipped there back in 2023. That is comparable to the champagne sales now in the entire European Union, said Simon Ricard, the sector analyst for the Confond France company, and represents about 6% of global champagne demand. So the entire market in the US is basically the exact same than champagne sales in Europe. Well, I'll tell you this now. You might see champagne prices come down in Europe because, hey, they've got to sell it somewhere else, right? Viltal Tattinger, the president of the iconic champagne house that exports up to 800,000 bottles a year to just the US, said she had hoped long-standing historic ties between France and the US would prevail now over the short-term turbulence. I don't think Trump cares. I don't think Trump cares one bit. Anyway, the timeline for champagne is long, she told the APF. Last century, many Americans fought for freedom and died in, of course, the Champagne region, she said. What has united us through history is stronger than what is happening right now. Well, I don't think Trump cares. Trump doesn't care. Otherwise, he wouldn't be doing this. Anyway, one American on a visit to the Champagne capital, Reims, Brooke Bridges from Washington, D.C., told the APF that she bought French wines and champagnes at least every other week, which would now become cost prohibitive if the tariff came into force. But while Trump's threat was, quote, very unfortunate, she said, it was hard to believe it would stick. Trump goes back and forth on threatening tariffs, so we will see what happens. But at this point, I am not too worried, she said. And to be honest, she's right. But Trump doing this, just threatening this stuff, causes so much economic damage. So much economic damage. Just the sheer threat of doing this. Already causing economic damage. Does he care? No. And hey, April 2nd, we'll find out. Will this just be kicked down the road to May? May very well do. May very well end up being kicked down the road to May again, but it will still cause a lot of economic damage. Even if he decides not to go through this, to flip-flop again, still causes a lot of damage. Why? Because businesses rely on certainty. They need to look at the next 6, 8, 10, 12 months down the line. That's how businesses work. If you are going, well, there might be tariffs this month, there might be tariffs next month, oh, well, there might be tariffs again in 2 or 3 months' time. Businesses can't operate like that. It's not how it works. It just causes so much uncertainty that he keeps on doing all this stuff. Anyway, meanwhile, of course, many industry representatives are, of course, fuming at the European Commission, which handles all these trade matters for member countries, accusing it now of failing to protect the sector. Ever since the trade row during Trump's first term, we've continuously asked the Commission to ensure that wines and spirits are not taken hostage in fights over trade, said Charlton, calling now for transatlantic drinks duties to be cut to zero. The luxury giant LVMH, which owns a major champagne houses, including Motiat and Reinhardt, whose boss also, Bert Alters, was also a guest at Trump's inauguration, declined to comment. Yep, that just doesn't matter. Trump will just do whatever the hell he wants because there's no more adults in the room. This isn't like the first Trump term where there were. There's no adults in the room this time. The smaller champagne houses are, of course, especially vulnerable to any tariff rise, said Christian Salvo, an organic grower and president of the Association of the Independent Champagne Producers, whose sales, of course, depend on about a third now for exports. Bigger houses have probably solid finances needed now to reinvigorate their sales, they said, adding that she hoped that politicians on both sides of the Atlantic would at least step in to stop any further escalation. The French finance minister, Eric Lombard, called the budding trade war idiotic and said that Friday he would travel to Washington very soon. We need to talk to the Americans to bringing down the tension back down, he said. Trump doesn't care. Trump does not care one single bit. He does not care. Like I say, April 2nd, we might be tariffed, we might be not. He might say, here's all these tariffs, announce them on the 2nd, and then on the 3rd, I'll do it in May. Just I gobsmacked. And like I say, yeah. Who knows what will happen? Maybe they will happen, maybe they won't. Who knows? But during this time, uncertainty abounds. Uncertainty abounds. And businesses do not work well in an environment where everything is uncertain. It's not how businesses operate. So, as always, let me know what you think down below, but I'll tell you now, who knows what's going to happen? Like I say, April 2nd, I keep on saying it, something or nothing may happen. We don't know, but it will be uncertainty, and of course, it will affect economies. So, we'll see. But as always, thank you very much for watching, and of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.